I never want anyone to think I'm ungrateful for the chances I've been given. At the same time, I could be having the best day and still be wishing people would stop sending me death threats. Rachel Zegler had hoped to calm her critics, but instead, she poured fuel on the fire. In a now viral video filmed from what looked like her bedroom, the actress behind Snow White looked into the camera with a mix of frustration and bravery. She said that even though she's gotten tons of hate online, people still come to support her. Her tone went back and forth. One second she seemed sad, the next she sounded annoyed. She defended herself, her performance, and talked about all the criticism the movie had gotten since it was announced. She said, "When I win, the winged victory statue came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still come to see it. So I hope that even with all my flaws, all my cracks and mistakes, and there are a lot, that people will still come to see what I do." She sounded like someone trying to take back control of her story, but the internet had other ideas. Soon, clips from her video were spreading everywhere. On TikTok, people were reacting to it with shock, jokes, and sarcasm. Some even made funny skits like, "Excuse me, your curtain, let me fix it." I didn't mean to offend, I just thought you should know. That I should know what? That some privileged guy thinks his opinion matters? I'm not waiting to be rescued. On X, formerly known as Twitter, the situation exploded. What Rachel thought would help her image only gave her critics more material. People pointed out the budget for Snow White was $250 million, but it only made $43 million so far. They weren't buying the "it's only been 2 days" excuse. Many said the movie's failure wasn't surprising. They blamed Disney and said Rachel was the wrong person for the role. They called her fake, out of touch, and said she was one of the most disliked people in Hollywood right now. The hashtag #JeerSnowflop said it all. What was meant to be a heartfelt video came across as tone-deaf and self-centered to a lot of people, and honestly, some people had been waiting for this. Reviewers online were already making videos like, "All right, guys, I watched Snow White so you don't have to. Let's break it down." They said Snow White doesn't get her name from the color of her skin anymore. Now, in the movie, it's because she survives a snowstorm. Her parents are king and queen of a perfect shared society where everyone is equal and kind. It's all about fairness. Fair in how they treat people, not how they look. People joked about the new message of the film. They also dragged up old interviews where Rachel said she didn't need a prince in her story. Screenshots of bad reviews, meme threads, and clips of her past interviews started trending again. One old clip had her saying, "I'm a narcissist." She laughed about the 1937 original cartoon, saying the prince was creepy and stalked Snow White. She even said, "If I'm going to stand for 18 hours in a dress as a Disney princess, I should be paid for every hour the film is streamed." She was clearly pushing for a modern version of the story, where the princess isn't saved by a man. She said, "She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not dreaming of true love. She's dreaming of becoming a strong leader, because she knows that's who she really is." But what was supposed to be a fresh take on a classic story turned into a social media disaster. In people's eyes, the villain wasn't the evil queen, it was Rachel herself. Those old interviews where she mocked the original movie's romance really didn't age well, and all that backlash, it wasn't just words, it hit the box office hard. Snow White opened with just $45 million in the US, a terrible number for a Disney live-action remake, especially one based on their very first animated film. It was even more shocking when, compared to The Little Mermaid, which also had its share of drama but still made $95 million on opening weekend. Movie experts were stunned. Some called it Disney's biggest mistake in years. Others just flat out called it a flop. And they weren't wrong. The numbers were bad. Theaters started quietly moving Snow White to smaller screens. Big showtimes were given to better performing movies. Some theaters even stopped showing it entirely after just 1 week. For Disney, this was a disaster. They're used to owning the box office, not being kicked off screens, and for Rachel, it was a very public mess. Not even Disney's powerful marketing team could fix it once people made up their minds. Then came the Oscars. Rachel appeared on stage with Gal Gadot to present an award. She looked stunning, smiled for the cameras, and said, "Visual effects help bring impossible things to life. They let us imagine beyond what's real." It should have been a happy moment, but even that was awkward. The same people watching her on stage were the ones dragging her online just weeks before. What was supposed to be a comeback turned into more criticism. Instead of fans cheering her on, many rolled their eyes or used her speech as another meme. Rachel wanted to tell her side of the story, but in the world of the internet, once the tide turns, it's hard to swim back. The tension between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot was clear. Photos and videos from their press appearances showed something was off. Gal barely looked at Rachel. She stood stiff, avoided eye contact, and gave off cold energy. People online noticed, right away. Body language experts and gossip bloggers pointed it out. Disney's PR team tried to hide it, but it was obvious. They didn't get along anymore. Insiders later said that even though Gal was required by contract to promote the film, she chose to distance herself from the project and from Rachel. What made things worse was that Gal's reputation didn't suffer at all. She kept getting roles, signing brand deals, and attending industry events without drama. Rachel, on the other hand, became more and more isolated. She still had a few loyal fans, but most people were criticizing her heavily. Her appearance at the Oscars was meant to fix her image, but it had the opposite effect. It made things worse. People now saw her as the main reason the new Snow White movie failed. The love she got from fans after West Side Story had faded. Her bold effort to modernize the character didn't sit well with audiences. What she thought was confidence came off as arrogance. Her attempt to control the story just made people dislike her more. What should have been her big break ended up damaging her image and possibly her whole career. Rachel's emotional breakdown that went viral was just one moment. The real problem had been building for a long time. As soon as the movie started failing at the box office, people began digging up her old interviews. Clip after clip showed her mocking the original 1937 Snow White. She rolled her eyes, called it weird and outdated, and said her version would be completely different. She proudly announced that her Snow White wouldn't be saved by a prince or dream of true love. Instead of being praised for a feminist update, she was mocked. People said she missed the point of the original and disrespected a film that many grew up loving. The backlash didn't just come from internet trolls. Lifelong Disney fans, the kind who buy the merchandise, visit the parks, and go to opening nights, felt insulted. Parents said they wouldn't take their kids to see a movie where the lead actress had openly mocked the classic. Even grandparents went on TikTok to explain how the original film meant something to them and how Rachel's attitude turned them off. Even people who were neutral began criticizing her. They didn't like the tone of her comments or how she acted. During the press tour, words like smug, entitled, and out of touch filled the comment sections. And unlike other stars who bounce back from criticism by showing humility or getting support from other celebs, Rachel stood alone. There were no tweets backing her up, no directors standing by her, no actresses posting supportive messages. Nothing. Just silence. And in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes. Behind the scenes, that silence became real consequences. Reports started coming out that her future film projects were being reconsidered. A studio insider said that while Rachel was in talks for some big roles, those conversations had slowed down a lot. Marketing teams started wondering if she was still a good face for a movie. Could she sell tickets? Or would she only bring controversy, bad press, and disappointing numbers? It's harsh, but that's how Hollywood works. Image is everything. And Rachel, who once looked like the bright new Gen Z star after her role in West Side Story, was now seen as a warning. Her rise had been, critics loved her. She won a Golden Globe. Spielberg praised her. Everyone thought she was the next big thing. But all that faded with Snow White. Her image, once glowing with potential, now seemed ruined. The timing made it worse. Today's audiences are more vocal than ever. They use their money to show how they feel. Rachel's controversy wasn't just a bad moment. It became a symbol. To some, she stood for everything wrong with the way old classics are being changed. To others, she was the face of celebrity pride. People didn't just skip the movie, they turned away from her. Insiders say her team is in full crisis mode. Her publicists, agents, and managers are trying to spin the story. They're pitching her for soft, emotional interviews and stories that could bring sympathy. But it might be too late. Viral clips don't just disappear. And trust, once lost, is hard to earn back. Some actors have come back from worse, but only when they apologized or charmed their way back into people's hearts. So far, Rachel hasn't done either. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't tried to soften her image. She's stayed defensive, and each time she speaks, things get worse. Some people are already saying it. Rachel Zegler, the young actress who was supposed to lead Disney's next big franchise, might have just become one of the biggest flops in recent memory. Not because of one bad film, but because of how she handled herself when the pressure was on.